Hey gigs, welcome back to the Augustus Maximus channel, and today we are again playing Hardbass 4. However, we are playing not vanilla, we're playing the Russia Reworked mod, which is quickly becoming one of my all-time favorite mods for Hardbass 4 because of the amount of love, care, flexibility, a variety of options, and just, it's fun. That's all that's required to say about this mod. It's fun because of the amount of flexibility it has, and in contrast to the basic focus tree that the Soviet Union still has to this day, it's basically the worst focus tree in the entire game. Even Italy, it can be argued, has a better focus tree when it comes to vanilla than the Soviet Union. And in contrast, the Russia Reworked mod is just miles better. It's like night and day. It's not even comparable. But today we'll be forming the Slavic Empire, or at least trying to form the Slavic Empire. And because this mod allows you to go against Papa Stalin, who isn't even ethnically Slavic, by the way, so it's justifiable that we put him out of power, so that we can form actually the Slavic Empire. But it's actually kind of interesting, because the pathway in the focus tree that we're going down requires us to go into a civil conflict of sorts. Yes, the Second Russian Civil War, you could call it. And we're gonna fight against the Soviet Union, or in the Red Army and everything like that, is the White Guards. And we're going to essentially put Stalin out of power. And through not exactly the Tsarist route, which I imagine is the more popular route, we're gonna reform or form the Slavic Empire. But for that to happen, we're first gonna have to take a few focuses that essentially could just completely destabilize our country, which is arguably really terrible if you want to build a really strong economy at the beginning of the game, because what that means is that you're not going to be able to focus so much on your industry and building civilian factories and military factories, and even a navy or just a strong military when it comes to equipment reserves and everything like that. But it means that you potentially will have some of the best generals in the entire game. And just playing quickly through some of the options, just on my own, obviously, I discovered that actually going through the Second Russian Civil War is insanely useful when it comes to just having insanely leveled up generals. Because, well, it's a really long, grueling war, and it's terrible and everything like that, but your generals get leveled up so quickly, because obviously you're fighting with essentially 100 divisions on both sides, roughly around that number. It means that you're gonna have quite the amount of levels when it comes to actually being a post-Civil War power, as compared to, for example, the Spanish Civil War and the whole Spanish situation. But I really like how this whole essentially situation plays out, because obviously as the USSR you start off with an incredible amount of debuffs, but what this focus tree, for what this mod essentially does, is it allows you to bypass some of those debuffs by going through the Civil War, because obviously a lot of those debuffs were sort of linked to the communist government. However, you also, before the Civil War, have a variety of these options which allow you to essentially seize the infantry equipment, or just equipment in general, or relocate civilian factories and military factories, or even get a few of the Soviet socialist republics on your side, like Belarus, Ukraine, the republics of Central Asia, and the Caucasus, and everything like that. And a few of those options, like taking over those Soviet Socialist republics it's kind of interesting, like Belarus, because they aren't exactly the strongest. They immediately become your puppets, and they fight on your side during the Civil War. However, after the Civil War, they become free. So, and while quickly playing through this mod on my own, and through the Civil War on my own, I did, make them puppets. However, it does make your or just your regular playthrough a little bit more difficult, but because there's always a chance that while you're trying to militarily reintegrate them, which is always an option if you're not playing democratic, or Tsarist, which is a different path. I'm definitely sure I'm going to cover that one at some point. But there's always a guarantee that they're guaranteed by France or the British, because they always try to mess up you having any sort of fun in the game. And that means that you're essentially never going to retake your core territory if you don't want to go to war with the Allies, which is an option, obviously, but you don't necessarily want to do that right after you end the Civil War, obviously. So we'll try to just do the military factory, buying weapons and industry and everything like that, trying to relocate it towards our new territory, trying to steal as many weapons as possible, trying to train the divisions, and fighting the Soviet Union and Ukraine, which always breaks free, just 1v1 or 1v2 essentially. Just make it a clean civil war, clean borders, everything like that, and just try and see if we are able to do that, because it's not necessarily encouraged, I think, to actually make the Soviet Socialist Republics free, or just the, I don't know what to call them, the small puppets or whatever you want to say. It's not necessarily encouraged, but it's not discouraged. Sort of an option. It's always an option to make the Civil War a little bit easier, I think, when it comes to, for example, the Central Asian republics. They do help you quite a lot because they make the front so much bearable, so much easier and everything like that, so much shorter, so it's a little bit easier to fight the Soviets if you do have them on side, but to not have them on side, really haven't tried that at all, so we'll see how it goes, but nevertheless, I think it's going to be quite a long and grueling war, so I'm only going to do the civilian and military factory decisions and also the weapon decisions, because, well, if you want to level up your generals, is definitely better to fight the harder wars and the more difficult wars, as strange as it sounds, because while your industry will suffer terribly, your generals will actually level up quite a bit. It's sort of the same situation as you find yourself, for example, in the Spanish Civil War. If you take the Franco path, which is the easier path, your generals, while they do level up, they don't level up as quickly and they don't level up as much as, for example, when you're fighting as the anarchists or the phalangists or the Carlists. It's a terribly difficult fight, and it's a terrible civil war, and leaves you economically and industrially and everything like that just completely shattered, damaged, pulverized. But your generals and your military eventually become basically the best in the entire game, notwithstanding all the buffs and everything from the focus tree. The Spanish Civil War experience sort of convinced me that this actually might be the better line to take when it comes to eventual military power and capability, because, well, I just want to test it out, obviously, and if it leaves nicer borders, because that's ultimately all we want, really. We want nice borders, a big font that says Slavic Empire, well then, we're gonna definitely try out that option, and, well, it's gonna be interesting. Alright, here we go, the last days, and there we are. The White Guard broke free and managed to get a few civilian factories in the end. We are in an industrial situation, like 47 factories overall. That's not terrible. It's not terrible, and our generals actually are far superior to the Soviet generals. So this should be sort of a clean sweep. We'll see about that one, because, well, it always could be just a terrible war. But yeah, we do get some of the better field marshals and the better generals. It's definitely better than if you go with the Great Purge, as as historically happened, because obviously the USSR military was sort of well, not in a very great state after that. We do have some airplanes, we do have a bunch of equipment, and we do have 95 divisions, which actually is quite a good situation for us. And lack of workforce, I wonder. Yeah, we also have that. So. Yeah, because the majority of the workers on the front line. There we go. The Ukrainian revolt, we're also going to declare on them because we don't want those guys around. And, yeah, so this should be interesting. But, well, you know the saying. Cheeki, Breeki, Vtuber. And there we go. There we go. What a... yeah. Well, that was something. That was quite something. Okay. So it lasted quite a bit. I think I'll speed it up actually in post because damn son. But we managed to level up our generals to an insane degree. I mean like 3 generals that are like fully leveled up. Now that was quite something. That was quite insane. Now our industry is going to be in absolute tatters. Hopefully our manpower will actually recover. Actually, this is definitely going to recover. I mean, already we are at 4 million, so it's going to be quite easy to actually like find people to put in the army. However, finding industry to make guns for the army it's going to be quite a hard task, I imagine, because it's going to be absolutely shattered. But our focus tree actually is quite decent in this regard, when it comes to all sides, actually. Well, maybe not the USSR, like the Stalinist, the default Stalinist tree actually isn't probably going to be all that great for this, but I think we should be definitely fine here, all things considered, because well, technically, we still have quite a ways to go before we enter into any major conflicts. We have roughly, well, like 3 years before the historical stuff goes down, so we should be fine before any German men start knocking on our borders. And when it comes to like reforming the Slavic Empire, technically all the enemies that are present within the historical playthrough, or the historical style playthrough with you know, the USSR and everything, we still should have basically the same line of advance, except well, we should be a little bit more powerful, we should get a little bit more territory, everything like that, because it's obviously about reforming the Slavic Empire, meaning we'll get a lot of cores on well, Slavic regions, so the entirety of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, some of the Baltic nations should get cores just because we're playing Russia, and everything like that. You know, even in Finland we should get some cores because of the regions there, just because we're playing Russia. Tenetuva's a core by default. So this should be interesting. This is definitely not as much as some of the other focus trees, which I'll get into, you know, later. But because of the situation we are in, we're actually not going to encounter some of the problems that some of the other focus trees encounter. For example, if you're playing as the democratic side, I know that you are potentially economically, or you know, industrially even worse off than we're off right now, because of the, well, we haven't built anything in like 2 years, and so it's potentially even worse. So and you don't enter into any like conflicts at all until, well, the historical start date, obviously. So this should definitely be interesting. Now, even if our industry is lacking, again, our generals are insane, so we do make up for our lackluster factory count, and you know, in sort of perspective as to when we wouldn't be in any sort of conflict at all, and we make up for it for just stats. You know, just pure stats should carry us through if anyone gets any ideas, which they probably wouldn't anyway, because the AI tends not to necessarily go against the USSR anyway, and they should go against us even less if you're actually non-aligned, because some of the focus trees which focus on, for example, anti-communist focuses, everything like that, they become relevant much later on in the game, and we're not actually communist at all, so they would only get focuses against Paraguay and the PRC, or not even the PRC, it's called Communist China in the 30s and 40s, so in early 40s. So it well, it's gonna be fine, I think. It's gonna be fine. We shouldn't really have anyone to worry about until we actually decide to, you know, mess with some people. And yeah, so we should actually be right now entering sort of a standard Russia game where we have just a lot of manpower going down mass assault, obviously, with just really beefy infantry, nothing else really except for air, obviously, no tanks or anything like that. Renaming the cities, actually, that's some good flavor. It's unfortunate it doesn't give you like stability or anything, or like political power. That would have been interesting. Obviously, moving our capital to Petersburg is good that it actually gives us some stability, because it actually showcases. And this is a little long lag. Something must be going down. Maybe the Spanish Civil War, or just something else. But oh, I guess just nothing. Okay. Well, that's just Hearts of Iron 4 for you. But hopefully it doesn't crash or anything, because as I said, this mod is actually really good when it comes to like the flavor, the amount of stuff. I mean, just for the amount of gameplay. Usually when you're playing the USSR, you don't necessarily enter into anything except for maybe Finland or the Baltic states or Romania or anything like that. Usually you just sit back and wait until everyone else does something, very similar to the United States, which is quite unfortunate. But the USSR obviously gained the advantage of being able to justify right away on basically anyone. Your army is going to be a little bit trash, but by going into early conflicts, or conflicts very early on, you do actually gain the advantage of just leveling up your generals. And there we go, managed to actually finish the focus. I was wondering what was sort of lagging in the game. There we go, Russian provisional government, wonderful. Or military government, actually. So this playthrough, since we're not going with the Tsarist route, actually is about the military taking over. And I kind of love that. I kind of love that there's this like not aligned path that isn't about restoring the Tsar, and mostly about like the White Guard taking power, because by the sort of the latter half of the the Russian Civil War, it was less about the Tsarist and the democratic sort of ideologies, and it was more about just pushing back the Reds by any means necessary. And the military is becoming much more prevalent. That's why sort of the White Guard is sort of this. I suppose this world's, or this pathway's sort of main focus, or that they give you actually the option, which a lot of sort of reworks for Russia don't actually even include anything like this. The non-aligned path is like purely the Tsarist path, and the Tsar then can decide to go in various directions. But yeah, so I kind of like this. I kind of like that there's this sort of non-aligned option that isn't like fully fash, but isn't like Tsarist either. It's sort of in between. Like, it's kind of cute. It's kind of it's just kind of interesting, and it's kind of creative, and it's something else. And that's ultimately what we're here to do, other than obviously restoring or actually forming the Slavic Empire, because there was never such a thing. And here we go, the Tsar challenges the military, and no, I don't think so. I don't think so, Mr. Tsar. Maybe another day, maybe another video, but definitely not today. Today we're going purely with the military. And actually right now I'm doing the appeasing the communists, which is one of the two paths. You can either challenge them or appease them, and I think challenging them with your sort of lackluster industry at this point of the game, well, not lackluster, I mean compared to someone like, I don't know, Turkey or Afghanistan or something like that, we're actually doing quite fine. But well, it's not like we're, at the peak of our performance, so to say. We're doing kind of fine, but we just want to get rid of those debuffs as soon as possible. I haven't actually challenged them ever, because at this point in the game, I don't think you necessarily want to lose cores. I think you want to sort of build yourself up, not necessarily deal with like any more domestic problems. And to actually sort of appease them and then unify them does give you a few buffs. So I think this is more the sensible route, and we are not like ideological here. We're the military, right? We are role-playing as the military junta. This is not ideological, right? This is more about driving them out of power, and then, yeah, sure, we can appease them here and there, as long as they're not in power and they don't actually have any sort of meaningful influence, right? it's yeah, this is mostly a pragmatic government more than anything else, or at least that's what we're role playing as anyway. And here we go, should complete the there we go, Andrei Vlasov is in. And he's actually quite an interesting historical figure when it comes to the whole Eastern Front, and it's like, non-aggression pact, yeah, sure, whatever. And we immediately skip a focus right there because we don't have to reintegrate anyone. Well, Tenetuva, we do have a core on them, but they're still, well, kind of going through a phase there, but Mongolia is fine. I'm not entirely sure what the Tenetuva is going with, but the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, everything's just happening at once, man. So the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, not entirely sure why it's called the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, but yeah, sure, whatever. It does give us a bunch of Slavic territory, so I think it should be okay. I mean, you know, it does give us a non-aggression pact. I mean, they're gonna, you know, go at Poland, go into Poland, whatever. They're gonna, you know, do that whole thing anyway, so, yeah, sure, let's seize the church, and let's agree to that. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. It should be called maybe like the Vlasov-Ribbentrop Pact, whatever. Yeah, Andrei Vlasov, he's kind of an interesting historical figure if you look at the whole, like, Vlasovite thing, in the Eastern Front, and what sort of propaganda was spread about him and what he actually did, and even towards the end of the war in like Prague, what his sort of regiments did. It's quite an interesting historical figure. I'm not going to go into anything controversial here, but it's well, he didn't do quite as much as people said he did. Certain people said he did. And then towards the end of the war, like his quote-unquote his regiments did a lot of interesting stuff that was actually quite heroic to a certain degree. But then they even got punished for not doing, I don't know. It's quite a strange thing, you know. It was sort of like the third party in Russia between the Germans and the Soviets. So like the Russian divisions that sort of wanted independence from the Bolsheviks, but so they had to side with her. It's, you know, it's a whole mess of things, and I think a lot of people have very different ideas about them to this day. It's quite controversial, but it's quite interesting at the same time, as it as it tends to be with controversial topics. So yeah, is an interesting figure. I actually kind of like that I included him here, because in vanilla he leads the Russian revolt against the USSR. If you don't do the, or actually, if you do the Great Purge, but you mess up, like you select the least purgy decisions a whole bunch of times, and that's what's kind of interesting that he's in vanilla. But I kind of like that I included him here because, well, there's a lot of options, obviously, for this sort of military junta, and well, it's kind of interesting. That's all I'm gonna say about it. But I think it's about time we actually start doing something, so here we go. Take claim state, yep, Estonia. Sorry about this, but you're in my sphere of influence, and you know what they say, even if you change the government and ideology, you still inherit the geopolitical situation. So we have a bunch of claims, and well, that means that those war goals don't actually go away, and we have a whole bunch of beefy generals. We have kind of an under-equipped, because I had to change the the width to, well, 40 width, because we were going with mass assault. You know, the 20 width, it's kind of iffy, and I wanted to just play. Well, you're playing sort of not exactly a very different situation from the default USSR situation, so it's yeah, we're just gonna take care of our sphere of influence. I mean, we had the whole Molotov-Ribbentrop, and we got those claims for free, and the Germans are not gonna mess with us, and the Allies are preoccupied, and we got Eastern Poland, so just gonna grab the Baltics here. Just gonna grab the Baltics, and then we're gonna go on our rough ride around all of our sphere of influence. Actually, probably not gonna mess with Romania that much. We'll actually see. We'll see what the Romanians decide to do, because I've seen them sometimes not actually go with the Axis if the Russians don't demand Bessarabia. So maybe they'll stick with non-aligned, which would actually be great, because as the Slavic Empire, we obviously don't necessarily want anything from Romania. Romanians aren't Slavs, so it'd be actually ideal if they could join our faction. But well, they probably won't. They probably either go Axis or they'll probably go with the Allies, if anything. So we only have Mongolia on our side thus far, which, yeah, that's, I mean, whatever, you know, I guess that's fine. But here we go, Denmark, and yeah, the Germans are gonna do their thing. They always do their thing if it's on historical, and hopefully the Allies can hold them back by a little bit. Because even though we have that little pact, Germany, I don't think we'll be friends for that long. Because, well, you hold Western Poland, and that's Slavic territory, and since we're gonna form the Slavic Empire, we're gonna need that from you. So hopefully you don't mind. Hopefully Germany doesn't mind, but we're gonna break that quite soon, or maybe they'll break that. Actually, I'm not entirely sure how they'll react to this, but I mean technically, this is kind of interesting. I mean, how would they'd still, because of the whole, like, you know, the Lebensraum, maybe they'll still probably go against Russia anyway, because the focus trees of other countries I don't think have been adapted to this situation. So, I mean, if you're playing multiplayer, actually, this would actually be kind of an interesting thing, right? You could sort of go with the Berlin-Moscow axis and not necessarily feel like it's that big of a deal, because you don't even have to complete the focus, really. I think we can just dissolve our thing and just join the Axis if we really wanted to, because well, we do have some Axis leanings, or at least Andrei Vlasov has as one of the traits some Axis leanings. So I mean, I don't know. It could be kind of interesting to, you know, do sort of a multiplayer game as that, or a co-op game as that. But then again, you know, I mean, here we are just taking care of our sphere of influence, so no need to think ahead and think about that sort of stuff. So yeah, just gonna take care of our sphere of influence. Transfer of power. Now, this is interesting. We could make Pavel Bermontavalov our leader, not reader. And he seems actually like he's kind of decent in the mid to late game. If you look at his a trait over there, you know, attack, reconnaissance, experience. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. He still has the firm grip trait, and our current leader only has sort of discounts on the army chief. So, and we've already filled those positions. So, I think he might be actually a little bit better suited for this towards the mid to late game. So, this is another sort of way to mitigate the early game buff by just giving you a little bit of a look at all that lore there. Oh damn. I mean, lore, right? It's like partially it's history, and partially it's just like in-game lore, because we, you know, tick over right now, so we have to adjust it. I think that's actually kind of smart. So there we go. It's you know, you could definitely see just from all of this the amount of care that was put into this mod, and that's why I really like it. And I wish more sort of mods did this. Sometimes when you have like a country-focused mod, like even the focus tree is a little bit off, and you definitely don't get a lot of flavored events like this. You sometimes get a few events like join the Axis, you know, join the Comintern, you know, and stuff like that. But in making the country like really overpowered because of like infinite manpower and just infinite factories and stuff like that, like insane generals, insane attack defense modifiers, but never like story and lore and just like events that are based within real life history, or real history that actually happened, and modified to take into account what would probably happen if they actually came into power and everything like that, and like ousting like the Bolsheviks, you know, how that is either you can take the peaceful route as the Democrats, but then your country is thrown into chaos essentially. When it comes to the economic situation, everything like that. Or you can just go with the direct route and just oust them militarily, however that's gonna, and there we go, by the way. we're actually gonna get lit. Yeah, we're gonna get lit, but we're gonna get lit in a very sort of a very swift fashion here. Like, look at that, we're just, just smashing. I mean, that's sort of obvious. They don't necessarily stand a chance, but there you go, bam, done, and the Baltics are secured. But I was saying, I really like the fact that this mod is going the step further, and then even like a majority of the vanilla focus trees, and that's actually quite well, it's beautiful is what I'm gonna say. It's a work of art, this mod, and I really like it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so I was just given all of Yugoslavia and Bulgaria because I did the focus. Yeah, I did a focus unite all Slavic nations, which asks asks the current holders of all Slavic sort of states or provinces to hand over those provinces, and they just, Yugoslavia and Greece, which was currently, holding all of Bulgaria because they joined the Allies. Yeah, they just gave me, and also I gained southern Slovakia from Hungary. So well, it's time to take care of a northern problem over here, because well, the south seems to be, yep, there we go, Yugoslavia. Okay, well, I mean, I sort of, kind of. Okay, I just handed over all of Slovakia. Okay. Well, we're in quite a good position all of a sudden. All of a sudden, we are in quite a really good position. And I really like this. This is sort of the mitigating factor. This is the mitigating factor which makes these focuses, or this mod in general, as a way of compensating you for taking the more drastic measure at the beginning. Obviously, throwing your entire nation into a civil war at the beginning, because you obviously have to oust them sort of directly. And while you really do level up your generals, your industry is just trash. You lose a whole bunch of manpower, lose a whole bunch of equipment, everything like that. It sort of compensates you by just giving you these really powerful decisions in the mid to late game, by just annexing all of Yugoslavia, potentially, obviously, annexing all of Bulgaria. If Czechoslovakia was still alive, you could annex all of Czechoslovakia, annex all of Poland, potentially. Potentially, obviously, if you're already at war with them, then you wouldn't be able to do this, because they would just refuse, or it was just bypass, obviously. But since we aren't at war with them, we can take care of that, while we can take care of Finland at the same time, because we just gained a lot of power in the south. And I was sort of expecting, not being able to take care of Finland, because we would have to sort of go to war over those provinces. And since Germany is actually kind of weak right now, I mean, they haven't been able even to push past the Benelux. As you can see, we're in quite a good position. I'm not entirely sure what the Germans are actually doing. It seems like they're doing fine when it comes to the military count, but maybe, I don't know. I don't think this mod actually nerfs the German anyway. I mean, it only modifies the Soviets or the Russians, really. So yeah, well, this is quite interesting. So we're in quite a good position, actually. Yeah, I mean, I mean, sort of insane. Like, overnight, you just gain Slovakia, Yugoslavia, and Bulgaria. But it makes sense. I mean, the Greeks don't want anything to do with us, like to go against us, because they have their hands, full with other stuff already. So they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. We don't necessarily want to take care of this territory. Here we go. The Yugoslavians, obviously they see that they're surrounded by people who really want to tear them apart. So they're like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Under new management, obviously, like, here we go. The royal family is probably like, yes, just secure us a nice, cozy administrative position, and we'll be fine. Sure, whatever. And yeah, Hungary was just like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. Here we go. Just have Slovakia. Here we go. And so unfortunately for them, we're still gonna have to, go up against the Axis because of Western Poland. But they saved themselves, for a little while. They did sort of delay the inevitable, so to say. And this is it. We're gonna see if all those powered up generals are gonna do well against the Axis. Because I still have the war goal against Romania, because they didn't want to cede Bessarabia to me. I don't really know why, but here we go. it's time to see if powering up those generals was actually a really good thing, because sometimes, even though the Germans sort of struggle in the West, sometimes as the Soviets you struggle against them because your military is sort of trash, even though your industry is really good. I'm really blasting through the Romanians, but obviously that's not the real issue here. Might as well just go against the Hungarians as well, because, well, they didn't really want to cede Slovakia before, but then they ceded it, but we still have the war goals, so might as well use it. I mean, why not? And there we go, calling in all of them, even Italy. But that's yeah, even Germany joined. Okay, so we should be fine. So we're just gonna ignore all those allies because that's annoying. But here we go. Yep, we're gonna break the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Okay. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Okay. I see that some. Well, it's a decision made by the German focus tree, or made with the German focus tree. So I don't think modifying the Russian focus tree actually does anything. But I mean, what would you call it? Like the Vlasov-Ribbentrop Pact, something like that. I'm not entirely sure. It's sort of strange like that, but. I wonder if actually the democratic path still gets that. That would be interesting. I think it would, right? I mean, I think it would actually get that. But as the democratic path, you obviously, if you're playing as the Democrats, I think you might get... no, it's probably not the stuff you actually want to do. But these generals, man, liberation of Warsaw already. We're just blasting through. We're just absolutely annihilating them. I mean, obviously we have like 250 divisions, right? But still, man, sometimes Russia can really struggle here, and we're just blasting through them. This is just pure 40 width infantry with support companies being artillery and shovels and spyglasses, which means reconnaissance and engineers essentially. So yeah, we're just blasting through like the most basic infantry with the most basic equipment, with some just essentially tactical bombers and fighter planes, and we're just annihilating them. And we still need to control all of Polish territory to be able to do this. So I think we might conquer all of Poland, or all of the Polish territory, then just stop. Because sometimes if you capitulate Germany as the Soviets, even, or just the Russians in general, because the Polish are in the Allies, they actually just pop up after the war, because obviously they were liberated, they were still in the Allies, so you don't actually like conquer them. And even though we're conquering them now, that's only because we aren't in their faction, and we didn't have any sort of military access with them at all. So that's only why we're currently now holding this territory. And there we go, we can actually proclaim it. Yeah, so let's actually, I don't know, push a little bit further, but we should probably stop everyone actually. Yeah, let's just stop. I mean, we're just completely annihilating them, so I don't think the Germans are actually going to be able to push us back in any sort of meaningful fashion. Yeah, they're not even attacking, they're just glad we're stopping for like 5 seconds. And the Allies here, I'm not entirely sure, like the Greeks there, they do have a port, so they're not starving. And yeah, I don't think the Allies are going to push them in any sort of fashion, because the Italians are actually fighting them quite successfully. I'm not entirely sure how they're doing in Africa, but yeah, we should be sort of fine here. So let's just proclaim the empire and then finish them off. Oh, and here we go. It's about to happen. It's about to happen. Hopefully it's gonna be epic. Hopefully the color is not gonna be too terrible. And hopefully the flag's amazing as well. Well, we're not aligned, so it should be fine. And obviously a big old snag, because Hearts of Iron 4 is Hearts of Iron 4. And there we go. Oh, the color's not terrible. The Slavic Empire, look at that. Absolutely brilliant, absolutely amazing. And I don't think those matter. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna play after we conquer all of Slavic territory, because that's what we want. It's Slavic Empire, gonna conquer all of Slavic territory. Not necessarily worry about the rest. There we go. So yeah, we just gained a whole bunch of core, a whole bunch of manpower, a whole bunch of core territories, and a whole bunch of industry. And so Yeah, we're about to completely annihilate the Germans as well, but our rubber situation, that's the one thing that the Soviets always struggle with. You have all the steel, all the tungsten, all the chromium, all the oil in the world, but you have no rubber, and so yeah, we're gonna have to do that. I mean, you'd be a little bit too OP if you actually did, but proclamation of the Slavic Empire, there we go. I wonder how quickly we can actually just completely annihilate them and embarrass them even further. I think we're gonna be just completely fine here. We also have to deal with Italy as well, but I think that's actually gonna be even quicker, to be honest. Yeah, even though I think when the Bulgarians do their, because you can see that Thrace, when they do their IMRO, the sort of the Macedonian decisions, giving them cores on what is today Northern Macedonia and Thrace. I think they don't necessarily have it in the focus tree to actually remove cores from the Slavic Empire, so they don't necessarily do anything against us. Or maybe because we proclaimed the Slavic Empire after they did those, they did the IMRO, whatever it's called, focuses. I think actually we sort of override their little attempts. Because, well, obviously we do. Obviously, like, look at this, we're just magnificent. But the flag is actually kind of cool as well. It's sort of the Kolovrat. So yeah, there we go. It's yeah, we should be fine here. We're already pushing into Italy like it's nothing. Just just a bunch of angry Slavs with their new empire. But yeah, we should be completely annihilating the Germans. Maybe it would have been a little bit more difficult if the Germans actually captured France. But I'm not entirely sure why they weren't capable of capturing France. Because it's 1941, maybe it would have been, maybe it actually would have been a little bit difficult if they had captured France and proclaimed Vichy France, and then had their entire military on the Eastern Front. I'm not entirely sure why they weren't able to do that. Maybe because usually, maybe it's just, that's just things worked out, but things should be fine now. Yeah, things should be fine. Whatever. It's, I mean, it wouldn't have changed much. I don't think so. Because maybe we would have been, delayed by 2 weeks or something. But there we go. The fall of Berlin. The Allies, I mean, they really didn't do much this game, to be honest. So it's not just that the Germans didn't do much, it's the Allies didn't do much either. I mean, sure, they didn't get smashed, but that's all, they were able to do, just not get smashed. Basically, the Western Front turned into World War I, which is, just wonderful. A wonderful situation for all parties involved. And then we just came in and just swept everything. So, yeah, here we go. Yeah, obviously. Obviously, we did everything. I mean, look at that participation, look at those casualties, everything. Basically, we did everything. We had to carry everyone yet again. I mean, this happens every time you play the game. I sort of feel like, no matter what you do, your allies are terrible, and you have to do everything on your own if you don't want to play until, like, 1970. I mean, some of the AI-only videos that I've seen, some of them can really drag on. The games where the player actually has no involvement. There we go, the German Reich has capitulated. But, I mean, even if you play a minor power, I mean, it feels so nice to be able to play a major power that actually does something. After all the games that I've played, France, Spain, Communist Hungary, I mean, this feels just nice to be able to actually just play like a superpower, basically. Like right now, in our current state, I don't think like any country in the world would have been able to stand up against it, because we have so much industry, so much military, and so much just core manpower. I mean, it's just like, wow. Okay, and we still haven't even built that stuff up yet. So, so yeah, the game is basically done. Like, we could just go for a full world conquest here, but I think after achieving the Slavic Empire, I think this is actually the extent to what we're gonna do, basically. Yeah, just conquer all the Slavic territory, integrate it, and there we go. I mean, half the Slavic, we actually didn't even have to fight any Slavic countries, really. No, we actually didn't. Like, Bulgaria capitulated to Greece, Yugoslavia just gave up. Slovakia we got from the Hungarians. Eastern Poland was given to us by by, well, Germany, and we essentially like liberated, quote unquote, liberated the rest of Poland. I mean, I suppose we fought in the Baltics. Okay, so we did fight in the Baltics, and early on, technically, yeah, we did have to go through that whole thing, but that doesn't really count because, you know, we weren't even going for anything back then. It was just liberating, liberating. You know, this. We were just liberating. This was a peacekeeping mission. And the Axis just misunderstood, as always, and we never even called in the Mongolians, but I don't think that really matters. And there we go. There's the peace deal. And yeah, as you guys can see, the Poland's right there. And since the Allies didn't actually do anything, since the Allies did absolutely nothing this game, we're just gonna... how are we gonna do this? Obviously, we're just gonna take everything within our sphere of influence. Obviously, within our sphere of influence, we're just gonna take everything. And everything have core territories on, obviously, so Czechoslovakia is entirely ours, the Czech side's ours. Gonna do, yeah, all of this, because this was all our work. I mean, the Allies only got, like, what, like 5% participation within this whole conflict. Everything was done by the Russians or the Slavic Empire. So, yeah, might as well take a little bit from Italy as well. I mean, that's our clay. And actually, that's basically like modern, yeah, that's just like modern German borders. So there we go. It's beautiful, obviously. And I'm not entirely sure with Italy what we're gonna do. I mean, yeah, I guess the French can take that. Makes sense, I suppose. Something like this, I guess. Does that work? No, that kind of works. British, yeah, I guess, yeah, okay, sort of a partition of Germany here going on. I guess they can take the colonies because, well, they were probably fighting in Africa. Didn't really check at all. Never really checked the African front that much because it doesn't really matter. Maybe instead of that, do something like this. And there, yeah, there's still Libya. So just gonna try and make the borders look nice because that's yes, since we're playing a great power, we have to take responsibility for how the borders look. When we're playing a minor power, you just take as much as you can and be happy with it. But yeah, oh, I messed up. I was supposed to. Yeah, okay, we're gonna have to fix the borders after this peace deal as well because. But yeah, the Netherlands can take that. The Belgians. The Belgians also, yeah. Let's give them. Actually, it's gonna look terrible. Yeah, that looks terrible. Gonna have to fix it. Gonna have to fix it in post. Okay. And since we did a majority of the work, yeah, let's just a cheeky puppet, just a cheeky puppet there and there, and yeah, that's gonna be fine. We humiliated Germany the most. And that's all that matters. This is never going to bite us in the back. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, you know, look at what the Western powers did. They completely carved them up, and we gave them a new starting point. That has to be, if you're German during this period of time in this world, you have to feel terrible. But yeah, we're gonna have to fix these borders because Northern Epirus actually is probably Greek claim. I'm not entirely sure. Probably is, and this, yeah, that goes, yeah, that the other way around actually. Yeah, this looks a little bit better. Okay, there we go. That's the game. Thanks, Kings, for watching, and I'll see you next time.